telling people, self-disclosing, like, this is what I'm going through, acknowledging that pain exists and that happened in me, and there's nothing I can do about it. I can't go back in time and change that. But because you can't change those things, it becomes really essential that you build the skill of changing the way that you interpret and respond to those things. So I look at what are my healthiest, most productive outlets for healing this.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Keynote Curators Podcast. I'm Seth Deckman, your Keynote Curator. Our guest today, very excited to have you on board, Johnny Crowder. Johnny, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. And I love your intro that tells the audience who they are. That's such a great reminder.
Tell them who they are, because sometimes we forget. And we're going to tie that into our conversation today. Johnny, we're going to get right into the heart of the matter. I just want to thank the return subscribers and viewers and listeners for coming back, and the new ones for taking your time to join us. Love us, like us, share and share alike, because you're going to love this episode like you do all the others and the great content. Johnny, mental resilience, self-care, and even the rewiring of brains, it's all over the place, thank goodness. And it used to have a stigma to it. It used to have this taboo to it, even if we called it other names. But take a mental day, take a mental health day, take a mental break. There could be attached to it some negative connotations. Talk to us. Let's start with the most damaging self-care lie that people tell themselves. So, we're out there, we're in our heads. There's many voices in my head, not just one. And there's lies. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, one that comes to mind is most popular self-care options don't work for me, then I guess I can't take care of myself. So, Seth, I have tried yoga like 70 times. Mm-hmm. I don't know if something is like fundamentally wrong with my chakras or whatever, but I swear to you, each time, like, I travel a lot, I'll be in a new city and someone says, "Oh, you haven't tried yoga with my instructor."
No. I'm not a doctor either, but I know a little bit about this. You actually, I can officially diagnose you on this podcast. You have what's called YRD, little known, but it's trending, and I'm glad we nipped it in the bud. You're have a light dose of yoga resistance syndrome. So
I knew it.
We can talk. It's actually YRS. So we'll talk about that later. So please continue.
Yeah, because all you see in self-care, like if you see on the cover of Cosmo, it's like yoga and smoothies. So you go try those things. And if those things don't check your boxes, I remember thinking, like, I guess I'm so screwed up beyond repair that there is no self-care option for me because the most popular ones don't work for me.
Right.
And I always encourage people to explore things that maybe don't have the same PR connotation to self-care, but still feel like self-care to you. So for me, being at a car show and listening to death metal, like, these are things that bring me so much peace and so much joy. They center me. I remember this one time, I was visiting my friends in North Carolina. They have 7 children, Seth. 7 children in one home. And I love them to death. They were crawling all over me. And I actually got up. It was so much stimulus. I was on a tire swing. They were pushing me around, screaming. And I just got up. I went into another room and I watched a 12-minute Top Gear video about the Lamborghini Revuelto. And after those 12 minutes, I was like a Zen master. I walk into that room and I'm so calm. I walk into the same room I just walked out of, abject chaos, but I'm completely at peace. And I think knowing what works for you is really important. I think the danger is saying, "Oh, if yoga doesn't work for me, then I guess I can't." You have to find what that thing is and then accept that if you offer it to somebody else and it doesn't work for them, that doesn't invalidate that it works for you. So if you were going through something hard and I said, "Seth, I have the perfect thing. It's a Top Gear video about the Lamborghini Revuelto," it probably wouldn't help you. And I need to take that data, finding out that it didn't help you, and then not allow it to invalidate the good that it does for me.
Right. You took yourself away. You watched your Top Gear 12 minutes. You came back. what I want to underscore, Johnny, in all seriousness is that the circumstances out there at the tire swing with the 7 young ones of varied ages did not change, but you did, at least for
Yeah.
that moment, right? And you came back out. It's kind of like if you're in Times Square or walking down Broadway and there's the swirl of people, the buses, you can hear the subway down the staircase underground, the people, the hawkers of all the tourist stuff, the lights, people honking, et cetera, all the different languages going on, and it can be overwhelming. And if you pull yourself out physically, literally, and whether it's the breathing, whether it's the metal, the heavy metal music, right? Whatever it is that you can reset, you come back out onto that Broadway or Times Square. None of that's changed. In fact, it might be more amplified. It might have more ingredients, but that you've kind of done this reset. And I'd like you to tie for our listeners that action, that skill, that muscle with your work with your company, Cope Notes, kind of like walking you into this because I'm prepared to talk about Cope Notes, but this is a tool, a mechanism, a vehicle, if you will, to handle moments like that. Share a little bit about that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm very passionate about, if there's anything that the last year has taught me. So I just shared with you before we started filming that I lost my home in a hurricane about 6 months ago. And that is a classic example of a situation that you cannot change. Like, I can't go recover these keepsakes, these things that mattered so much to me, like belongings. People who didn't lose their home say, well, it's just physical stuff. It's all can be replaced. It's all material. And I go, no. I got a pin from someone who survived a school shooting when I was traveling. And I wanted to keep that pin for the rest of my life. And now I don't have it. There's real things that I lost. And my initial reaction when I lost everything is I want to change the circumstance. I want to make that storm unhappen. And just like if you're in downtown, if you're in New York City and there's buses and people honking and shouting, you want to change that. You're like, I want it not to smell this way. I want there to not be these people screaming at each other in the sidewalk. I want there not to be dog poop right in front of me. But because you can't change those things, it becomes really essential that you build the skill of changing the way that you interpret and respond to those things. So basically at Cope Notes, the whole idea is we are interrupting that chaotic workday, that the stressful cramming for an exam, the argument with your spouse. We are interrupting those day-to-day stressors with these tiny little bursts of health education content, like psychology facts or journaling prompts and exercises. And what that does is pick you up out of that automatic negative thought for all of 10 seconds. It's just a brief interruption. And what that does over time, with enough consistent random interruption, it actually helps your brain form new neural pathways associated with coping skills and resilience.
And the key there, it's done randomly, right? So you're not getting it every day at 9 a.m. or,
Correct.
It's different days, different times of different days and all that. So it occurred to me, somebody signs up for the service or they receive these interruptions at random times, and they're, very brief and short, and they're designed to, interrupt, extricate, throw you off balance in a good way, kind of, do a reset, if you will. But even then, people might receive it and ignore it.
Oh, yeah. What I think is really cool. So a couple things. First, the random timing is really important because the brain clings to novelty. If we sent you a text every single day at the exact same time, there would be so much less novelty that your brain could tune it out through habituation, which is like right now I have an air purifier running over there and I forgot because my brain tuned out, it habituated that information. It was like, you need to know that that's making a noise. So what I love about the random timing is that it drives novelty. But what I love about the health education part, Seth, is that even if you read the message and don't respond, even if you read it passively, we've had people text us a month later and say, I don't even remember reading that text in the moment, but I experienced something stressful about a month later, and I knew to use that coping mechanism. So it must have lodged itself in my brain somewhere as an available option for the next time I became distressed. So there is a really cool sort of, there's the conscious engagement, which we encourage people to like read that message and think about it. But there's also this unconscious engagement where a month or two later, you might experience something and then remember, oh, I got a text about this months ago. Why do I know this information?
Yeah, I mean, the brain does capture that. Well, I've heard it from not just speakers. I've read it, and I've heard it on TED Talks. What is it? Humans can have up to 60,000 thoughts. I think this is out of one of your keynotes that I've had the privilege of seeing, and 42,000 can be negative. So that's almost one a second. And how do we interrupt that now? Many social media platforms have kind of leveraged that and glommed onto that and expanded that and made multi-billion-dollar businesses out of the negative and the race to the bottom.
Yeah. Have you ever seen The Social Dilemma on Netflix?
Yes.
So that documentary, I hope to meet the people who put it together one day, because that documentary at that time, this was early in me building Cope Notes. And I remember watching that documentary and thinking, we can't be a tech company that measures success by screen time.
Yeah.
We can't just, because imagine if you have your Facebook app open for 30 minutes today and it was only 10 minutes yesterday, but you had it open for 30 minutes because you were arguing with somebody, or you had it open for 30 minutes because you were trying to change a setting that just wouldn't change and you kept trying to reload the page and it wouldn't change. You were so frustrated. I'm not saying that this is how Facebook does it. I don't know how they measure success, but I know that there are tech companies who would look at 10 minutes yesterday and 30 minutes today and say, wow, Seth must love what we're doing. And we're going to show that to investors to raise more money. And I think when we look at Cope Notes, Cope Notes is actually called a low touch, high impact intervention, which means we want as little interaction as possible required to drive a measurable positive health outcome. So my dream is for people to use Cope Notes for 10 seconds a day and feel better as a result. I think the entire tech world has become enamored with the wrong success metric. Like, imagine if Crest, the toothbrush and toothpaste company, imagine if they said, wow, Seth brushed his teeth for 2 minutes in the morning and 2 minutes at night today. You know what I wish he would do? Brush his teeth for 45 minutes this morning and an hour and a half tonight. It would ruin your teeth. We need to come back to like, what matters is the outcome. Like, are your teeth healthy?
Right. That's right. And to tie it back to the outset of this conversation, results talk. So if it's yoga, I mean, you suffer from the yoga resistance syndrome, which again, we'll talk about on another episode.
Thank you for having empathy with me for that. It's a very difficult, of all my diagnoses, it is one of the most difficult.
Well, Johnny, it takes one to know one.
Oh, a true peer.
I see you and I raise you two downward dogs.
You are not alone. I always joke when I'm on stage, I say, like, you might have read on Wikipedia or something that that I've been diagnosed with schizophrenia or bipolar disorder or PTSD from abuse. I say, what you probably don't know. First, I say, does anyone here have a degree in psych? And maybe a couple people raise their hand. I'm like, okay, right. So you guys might be familiar with, I have chronic MCS. And I'm like, is anybody familiar with chronic MCS? Because it's been known for years, but it's really not talked about. And I say, I have an older brother and a younger brother. And then I wait.
We'll start. I have it too. Middle child syndrome.
And
it's true. I have three daughters, and my oldest, and then I have a set of twins. And so the dynamic is, it's interesting because as the twins, they're older, they're 11. So there's 10 years difference. And I swear, John, this morning, I was like, one of the twins is like a blend of middle child. I'm a middle child. Okay.
This explains so much.
So not only do we have yoga resistance syndrome, but we have middle child syndrome. But one of the twins she's like a blend. She's like first in the birth order, even though she's technically not.
Yeah.
And she's a middle child, which technically she is, So it's just like, That's again, that'll be chapter 3 of our another podcast there. But when you talked about in the beginning about Top Gear or a car show, or listening to your specific kind of music that really provides the result, the desired result, to center you, to focus you, to calm the waters, if you will, to get yourself grounded. It's all about the result. So if it's low touch, high impact, and it's 10 seconds a day, not 45 minutes brushing my teeth in our silly made up, example, that's what speaks, right? It's the result. So if it's trimming bonsai trees or stringing a tennis racket or stringing your guitar
Yeah.
or whatever, the result talks more than anything. And, you can have all these traumas which you've had and all these circumstances, but the power that you, Johnny, have is that you've had the result to be able to look people in the eye and talk about it. What's that been like for you?
I'm such an advocate for advocacy, because anytime someone tells me like, oh, I hear this all the time, like during Q&A or afterwards, when people come up and like take pictures, they'll basically tell me, I wish I could talk to my wife about this. But I can't bring myself to like have that conversation. I know she could help and support me. And every time I just change the subject. And I tell people, like, advocacy, like just literally telling people, self-disclosing, like, this is what I'm going through, is the most freeing thing I've ever done. Because now, I used to have such low confidence, Seth. Like, I would walk into a room and immediately feel like I didn't belong there, that I wasn't qualified. I had this inbuilt fear, this social paralysis. And now I walk into any room and I just think to myself, all the worst things anyone could discover about me, like the most deep and painful experiences of my life, you could Google it and find out online. Like, I am afraid of no social interaction now because of that. And I always want to tell people, like, there's something so liberating about, at first I didn't feel that way. It took time. I had to build that muscle. But now I'll fly across the country and meet 1,000 new people. And I'm not worried at all, because I'm like, what is there even left for you to uncover about me that I could be embarrassed by? It is this sharing this with people not only gives you that confidence, but it also brings you so close to other people. Like, I get off stage and I'll talk to someone for 2 minutes, just briefly. I'll be at a urinal next to them and we have a conversation, and I leave and I think, like, I know that guy now. And he knows me, like, in a way that I have friends that I've had for 20 years who we might not connect on that level because we haven't mutually disclosed some of those challenges.
Yeah. And it's that have the appetite, the genuine interest to connect with people. You never know who you're in a urinal next to or who you're sitting next to on a plane. I try not to talk
much. Like, if I'm in a urinal, please don't start a conversation with me there. At least wait till we're washing our hands. But this has happened. That's why I use that again.
Right. And all facetiousness aside, big word, SAT word, spell it, and then you win a gold star. But really, that is part of it, the ability to connect. What I want to, here I am with the spotlight, what I want to underline, underscore, spotlight, put in bold and italicize is, you had said very quickly, Johnny, I didn't always feel comfortable doing this, or you referred to the muscle. When you're keynoting, or you're not keynoting, you're speaking to a small, intimate group or something that is not necessarily a paid professional speaking gig, it wasn't always this way. It wasn't always comfortable. And you can hear the power now, but it's a process. And, what is the extraordinary power of having come, I don't like the phrase the other side of it, because you're always grappling and it's always there. Right? It's never disappeared, right? Whatever it is for you with trauma, diagnosis, it's how do you administer, how do you govern it? How do you handle it? And how do you harness it even sometimes? And to get there as you are on a keynote stage and speak with such agility and crispness about it, it just speaks to the work and the process and ultimately arriving at cope notes. And this is not a podcast about blowing smoke up, what, but I want to thread the needle here, turn the corner just a little bit. So that was the acknowledgement, encouragement part,
I
Johnny.
appreciate that a ton.
Because it's true. I listen to speakers all day, every day. And it's what I do. And I have to unsaturate myself from being inundated and look newly and fresh, because it's not easy and it can be irresponsible to speak about really serious things, mental health struggles, schizophrenia, depression, suicide. These are serious things that we're dealing with. And you've got metaphorically to the other side, but they're still always there. And I just love that respect and courtesy that you give credence to, but the power that you also present of the work that you've done with it. So here's the needle to be thread. It arrived at Cope Notes, where you're the founder, you're the CEO. It's a fantastic product, service. You've been featured on CNN and Forbes, and you have a very groundbreaking approach to mental health. And you're a founder, a CEO, a business owner, an operator, a marketer, a salesperson, an executive, the chief cook, the bottle washer, HR, payroll,
Janitor,
you name it, furniture mover, network password guy. Compare those journeys, because while they're inextricable, they're totally together. They do have separate kind of little sidewalks there. What was that experience like?
I'm going to throw a third ball into this juggle. So
Please.
I am also still making music. Like I'm in the studio later today. We released a new song at midnight last night, like a few hours before this recording. So I am shocked at how God has woven all of these seemingly disparate things into like one cohesive life of advocacy. Because if you look at what does it look like? I'll just take one experience. So I was abused. I was sexually abused in my early 20s. And then that experience leads to me writing a song about that. And then that song leads to freedom and healing for people who have experienced sexual abuse, which then leads to me giving keynotes about abuse prevention and identifying subtle signs of abuse. And so and then now there's text messages in the Cope Notes library about identifying abusive patterns and then protecting ourselves when we identify them. So it's like God will take an extremely challenging and traumatic experience and then create like blooms of freedom and hope and healing through all. It's not like, oh, I was abused and then it turned into a keynote. It's like, that's great. But also it turned into music. And then we made t-shirts. We did a partnership with the human trafficking prevention organization. Like I'm talking fruit upon fruit upon fruit upon fruit from this awful experience. And if you look back at my life, Seth, you see hundreds of examples of like this one awful thing that no one should ever have to endure, then being transmuted into work through advocacy, work through keynotes, work through the company, work through partnerships with community organizations, work through music, like merchandise, and all of these opportunities, proceeds going to organizations that are doing work to prevent the abuse. It's like it's the ultimate transmutation of something. It's alchemy. It's like something awful and evil becoming 100 times as beautiful than it was awful,
Yeah. And it must be, and you can speak to it, where every cylinder of your self-expression, every piston, if we can use, because you're a car person, is firing. There's the creative, clear, core desire and appetite to impact and make a difference, educate, and all in this kind of frame and context of artfully taking it all on. It's just so beautiful. And I think that's why people are hiring you as a keynote. That's why Cope Notes is seeing the success that it's seeing, and that your music, people are identifying with in such a strong way.
Dude, real quick, Seth, I have to share this with you. I believe that everyone should have a life mission statement. This is not part of any of my talks, but it is something that I believe I have a strong conviction about this, because it becomes the plumb line by which you can measure an opportunity or a relationship or anything. And my mission statement in life is I want to make stuff that helps people feel better. That's it. So if I'm faced with an opportunity, I check, like, is this an opportunity for me to make something? So maybe it's a record, maybe it's a merchandise collaboration, maybe it's a keynote, maybe it's a text message for Cope Notes, maybe it's a new company, something I can make that will help somebody. I want this to help somebody, or else it's not interesting to me. And will it help them feel better? If it checks those three boxes, I take the opportunity seriously. If it doesn't, I
Wow.
don't. And I think a big reason why why I can look back at my life at all the awful things and see the fruit that they've created is, like, I checked it against that. Like, can I use this? Like, even using losing my home. Like, can I use losing my home? Can I make something from that will help people feel better? And the answer is yes. I just need to figure out what that thing is, you know?
Yeah. Well, and it's a life mission statement. That's really beautiful. For our listeners, share in the comments, what is your life mission statement? I'm going to put mine in. I need to dial it in, and I'm going to work on it a little bit, but this is why our viewers come back and people share, because of this rich kind of content. And we prompt people to create their life mission statement that just comes out of this episode. So there you are. You're making a request, or you're making something beautiful, and we're going to carry it forward here on the podcast.
I love it.
Yeah. Johnny, what are you working on right now that's totally got you fired up and turned on?
Right now, I'm working on a few different things that have me very excited. So one is I wrote the song that just came out last night is called Splitting Black. And it's about loving someone, like either a parent or a spouse or a child that has an untreated personality disorder, and how challenging that can be because you love them so much, but their behavior is so damaging. And so you're faced with this, like, I love you, but it's not good for me to be around you. And that sort of struggle. And I'm really passionate about, as you can imagine, that's like a challenging situation that then became a song that is now giving people hope. So, like, that song is top of mind because it's literally right when we hang up, I'm going to check Spotify to see how it's performing. And then another thing that I'm really excited about is, I'll just share two more. There's a ton, but I'll just share two more. One is I'm writing a keynote about everything that I've been through with losing everything in a storm. Like, one day your life is normal, next day everything is different. Everything, your freaking Wi-Fi password is different. The couch that you sit on doesn't belong to you. Like, I'm in a furnished unit, and like I wake up on someone else's bed, like looking around. Has it really been 6 months and I still live here? So adjusting to it's about adjusting to forced, abrupt, traumatic change, and doing so in a way that allows you to maintain your mental and emotional health in the face of something that you literally can't control, such as losing everything in a hurricane. So I'm very passionate about that. And then the third thing that I'll share is Cope Notes is doing these huge school district projects where we are offering, like, I'm talking teenagers getting Cope Notes for free, daily mental health support, anonymous, confidential mental health support for free on their phone through their school. This may be the coolest thing I've ever done in my entire life. Is, like, think about it, thousands of kids who maybe aren't even in a place where they're comfortable talking to a school counselor, talking to their parents, asking to book a counseling session or therapy appointment. They can make the decision on their own to use a mental health resource for free through their school. And a lot of times it's funded either by the school district or by the county government or by the state or something, by an insurance company. But the fact is, these kids are getting free mental health support. And I just can't, I lay in bed at night thinking, like, because of this work, there are kids like me, like teenage me, who are still going to be alive when they're my age because of this.
Yeah. And not just alive, Johnny, flourishing, and be able to get out there and be there for all their pistons firing and be their fully self-expressed self, Pretty cool. Yeah. Those are three amazing things. That really resonates. I get chills. My daughters were in a lovely school district, but it's filled with human beings. So there's human beings. It's filled. I don't care what the demographic is. They're all problems don't discriminate. That's really, really cool. The song, I can only imagine, but for both sides, because the one, let's say with the ailment or however, what the correct way to say it is going through that and suffering, and probably is aware at a certain level that it's beyond them. It could be chemical, it could be inherited, or from trauma, and the awareness that it's there, and you have yet to treat it, take it on, get on the other side of it, dominate it. And then for the other who wants to be connected and has, loves and wants to be, all woven in with the life, and there's no access, or it's now doing damage to you, that's just got to be such a challenge. And then to write a song about it that makes a difference. Wow. Was it your intention to blow my mind today? Because I'm trying to think, how do you do that?
Dude, it's one of the most important parts of my healing process. Like when I look back at specifically at trauma, like I've faced a lot of, I'm sure you're familiar with the ACEs score, like adverse childhood experiences. I got a whole mess of them. I got a whole collection of them, like Dragon Balls. I got plenty. And acknowledging that pain exists and that happened in me, and there's nothing I can do about it. I can't go back in time and change that.
There's no do-over.
Oh man. Like that's a big part of trauma therapy, is like accepting that what happened actually happened.
Yeah.
And so then I look at what are my healthiest, most productive outlets for healing this. And for me, music has always been one. Like if I carry this weight of some traumatic experience and I just carry it on my back and it's so heavy, but then eventually I start putting a little bit more of it into something else, like a song. Eventually that song, like right now, we have a song about me. By the way, the band's called Prison. I didn't mention that. So if someone's listening and like, he never said the name of the band. The band is called Prison. And we have a song that I put out in 2017 about being sexually abused. Now, when I hear that song, when I play that song, when someone mentions it to me, it's not like it elicits this huge rise. I don't have this like deep emotional distress. I don't go back to that time. And the same is true when I'm on stage. Like if I'm telling these stories about my own experiences, I'm not suddenly transported back and shook. And it's because I've been—
and the shame is coming back, and the embarrassment. Yeah.
No, nothing like that. And it's not because it's been a long time. I want to be clear about that. Time does help, but time doesn't magically heal everything. You have to do your part. So the reason why I can perform these songs or write a song like this and feel better afterwards is because I took this awful thing that happened to me and I scooped out as much of it as possible and I looked at it. I just looked right at it and I'm like, this is this goop muck that has been clogging up my pores and my arteries and keeping my heart from healing. And I look at it, I examine it, and then I use it to build something that isn't inside of me, like a song. So I know that writing this song is a huge part of my healing process, because eventually when I perform this song and when people mention it to me, I won't be transported back to this difficult experience because I took the time to process it and create something from it.
Yeah. And it's aligned with your mission. You're building something.
Amen.
So, you're just striking the chord there. We're going to get these songs in the show notes. We'll get your band in the show notes. And, for anybody who's interested, Johnny's keynotes are full of humor, full of really inspirational nuggets. It's a poetic keynote-palooza, if you will. I mean, I don't know how to say it, but it just is this flow. You don't feel you're being talked at. You feel like you're being talked to. You're being included, and you don't have to have schizophrenia or childhood traumas, whether it's sexual abuse or whatever, to totally get the full-throated juice and nectar out of his keynotes. I implore everybody. You can find his profile on our site. His TED Talk is there. There's a whole bunch of information. Just reach out to us if you're interested in booking Johnny. I rarely say this on a podcast, but it just occurred to me that you don't have to have anything in your life that you went through to be able to get value and be impacted by your message. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, oh, we're going to pigeonhole you into this area. On the contrary, it's for everybody. You just happen to be sourcing this stuff that you lived through.
Dude, this is one of the coolest parts of my job is like, I'll do a talk at like a women's banking conference.
Right.
And then like a manufacturing association conference, then a dental conference. And then like, I swear, I'm all over the place. And I am astounded by the unison and the harmony of just the human experience. Like I'm telling you, I'm in a room full of people with completely different life experiences than me. They've never toured in a death metal band. They've never been abused.
They like, don't even know what death metal is.
Totally different experience. And the humanity, the unity, you have 1,000 people in a room who just get each other. And it is this ultimate leveling of like, I literally have people take their name tags off. I'm like, I don't care if you're CEO of this. I don't care what your title is. Like you take that name tag off. And for the next hour, you are a human being sitting next to other people who actually understand what you're going through. And I am shocked. Like afterwards, I'll hear organizers be like, yeah, we thought this was like going to be a really niche out there, but then we realized just how much unity there is in the human experience. Like you're looking around at 1,000 people, all with different walks of life, nodding and just feeling understood. That's such a powerful, magical moment.
Yeah, it's incredible. And, bravo to you. Bravo to the work you're doing. I know you get acknowledged all the time. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of this episode, but just for all the future groups you speak to, all the future students and everybody that's going to take advantage and utilize Cope Notes and everybody else that you touch with your music and everything that you're building to make a difference. Thanks for the hard work that you do, not only on yourself, but what it takes to bring it out to the world. And for all the times that you've never been thanked in those late hours or those frustrating moments, because life is hard, but life is good. Thank you for that too. And being persevering and sticking through it all, Johnny. It's really awesome.
Dude, not only do I appreciate that, but I want to do something for listeners right now. So I've never done this on a show before, but I went to this retreat in October of last year. This was right before I lost my home, like literally a couple days before. I had no idea what I was walking into. And I was in the process of leaving an abusive relationship. So this was like, I was a very tender version of myself in this moment. And what these people said to me at this retreat was, I'm sorry for anyone who ever hurt you and didn't apologize. And I was like, boo hoo hoo. I mean, I absolutely got wrecked. So what I want to do for people listening is, I'm sorry on behalf of anybody who, when you brought up a mental or emotional concern, something challenging you were going through, my son's in the hospital or my daughter just got arrested or I'm going through a divorce or whatever thing it is that was so real and difficult for you that someone didn't make the time, just carve out 15 minutes to sit with you and just be there in that moment. If anyone was dismissive of you self-disclosing that you were living with some type of challenge, I am sorry on behalf of them that they didn't have the ability, the capacity to make that room for you. Please don't let that deter you. Like my prayer, Seth, is not that 10,000 people listen to this and I get 10,000 talks. I mean, that's great. And I do hope that happens.
Yeah.
But real prayer is that 10,000 people hear this and then make a choice to start a conversation with somebody about something real going on in their life and their lives are changed as a result. I would take that over 10,000 keynotes any day.
Yeah. Well, thank you for bringing that to the show. And this is very timely. We're coming into Mental Health Awareness Month. We're going to time it on and make as much impact as we can. So to our listeners, our subscribers, our viewers, our likers, our lovers, comment, join us, share this great, rich conversation with everybody and anybody in your life, because we're here to make a big difference. Thanks for joining us, Johnny. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, brother.
You got it.